follow-up on my predictions about Donald Trump's marriage. I said this eclipse was going to be brutal for it, and it's been just that. Ridiculous scandals about paying off adult film stars, defending his disgraced aide Rob Porter. Now there's a new affair allegation, so I break out the issue again in this video. Hey, so I'm talking now about Donald Trump and the eclipse. This is a follow-up to a video I made around the end of January when I was still in India before the lunar eclipse, about a week before. And I made the prediction very clear at that time that this was going to be vicious for his relationships primarily. That was the main focus, but also for his presidency in general. This is going to be a very bad eclipse period for Trump. I'm mainly focused on the relationships and the fact that, as I said at the time, I think for the most part his relationship, his marriage is over with Melania Trump. I said it then, and since then it's done nothing but get worse. And I said it at the time. It was right before Trump was going to go to Davos in Switzerland, and she canceled at the last minute. This was right after the allegations of the hush money to the stripper and all of that surfaced. Now, we can look at two things here. This is Donald Trump's chart. Here's his first house, his Leo ascendant rising, with Mars in the first, very close to the ascendant. And you see in his 12th house, Saturn and Venus. Now, of course, Venus is the karaka, or the indicator of relationships for everyone. And Saturn is his 7th house ruler. So when you're looking at doing relationship astrology, the two things you look at in an individual's chart is the karaka, Venus, and their 7th house ruler, to see their approach to relationship partners and their integrity and what they look for and all of that. When you get one or both of the relationship factors in the 12th house, it means there's going to be loss. It's going to be hard to hold on to it. There's going to be fantasies, fantasizing, projections. Venus in the 12th is notorious for like sexual fantasies. You put the 7th house ruler there also, and then the actual partner or the person, which is the 7th house ruler, winds up also being this kind of fantasy, like always fantasizing about having sex with another person. It's and just always this leaky boundary where there's no integrity with what they're doing. Now, I shouldn't say always. It's not like they're always doing it, because there have to be other factors as well. So I shouldn't make that just a blanket statement. But in this case, it is. Okay, because you also have Saturn at a very early degree, less than 1 degree, and Venus is also very early. Now, the reason it's also very important is because he's in Jupiter Dasha, and Jupiter is the ruler of Saturn and Venus because they're both in Punarvasu Nakshatra. Anyone who has studied with me knows this is a deep principle that I teach. This is how you can tell when karma is ripened, based on what the planets rule. Based on what the planets rule. So why does Jupiter have to do with relationships for him? Simple. It rules the karaka and the house ruler. Right? So you bring that and combine it with the eclipse, bang, right over his 12th house. Let me go back to when we had the eclipse. The eclipse was right here, right? This is January 31st, February 1st. This is when we had the eclipse, right in his 12th house. So that's what blew it all up. Now, since then, as I said, it's going to just get worse. So it could have just gone away like a lot of things, but no, it didn't. So we had the stormy allegation. Then shortly after that, she goes on Jimmy Kimmel, right? Blows it up even more, has that weird interview where she kind of admits but doesn't admit there's a non-disclosure agreement and all this stuff. Then we find out that Trump's attorney, Michael Cohen, set up a shell corporation to actually pay her the hush money. $130,000 to pay her. And then a watchdog group came out and said, well, let's look into this, because if that was paid by paid by campaign money, that is illegal. So then Trump's attorney, Michael Cohen, comes out and goes, oh, no, no, I paid it out of my personal finances. Trump didn't even know about it. But he's innocent. This is the insanity that's happening right now. Trump's personal lawyer paid an adult film star not to talk about an affair that never happened. He never told Trump, and he did it because it's just his good buddy. Because even a lie can bring you down. Well, what about all these other people that accuse Trump of affairs that Trump denies? Why aren't you paying money to them? Because it happened, obviously. Oh, did it happen? It's proof. We already know it's proof as well because she had an interview about it like 2011 or something. So anyway, let's just pause for a second and look at the level of insanity with this occupant of the White House. What if Barack Obama had any kind of allegation like this surrounding him? And we're just numb to it at this point. Oh yeah, okay, that's going on now with the president. This would be the most gargantuan, titanic scandal we have ever seen in the last 3 decades if it was anyone other than Trump. He paid off a private film star. He had an affair. He paid hush money, lied about it, denied it, set up a shell corporation to pay her. Now his lawyer comes out and goes, oh no, I did all that on my own with my own money. He never knew about it, but it never happened. And nobody cares. Okay, so this is what I was talking about though, all right? Now, not to mention, and I also, what I talked about was in general and specific terms. I said this was going to bring up his relationship with women, how he feels about women, his karma with women. Why am I making that distinction? Because then we have the great Rob Porter scandal, which has actually dominated the news even more than Trump's own scandal. Because then a few days later, it comes out that his secretary, the one who screens the daily briefings that sees the most highly classified material. First of all, it doesn't have security clearance, which I'll talk about in a second. But this man abused his 2 ex-wives, smacked them around. One of his ex-wives has a photo of her black eye. And of course, Trump's response was to feel sorry for Porter. He's a good man. It's hard to see him go. And then he makes these tweets about how these accusations are ruining people's lives. Expresses zero sympathy for the abused women, for the women he abused. One of them has a photo. 2 ex-wives. Trump expresses zero empathy for them. He sympathizes and empathizes. It's empathizing with Rob Porter and getting accused, an accusation. These accusations are ruining people's lives. Doesn't matter if they're true. What about the lives ruined by Porter smacking his ex-wives around? What about their lives? Right? This is Trump's relationship with women. Not smacking them around, but just not caring. They're just objects. They're objects. And this is what I said would come out. This is what I said would come out. By the way, Rob Porter did address what happened with the black eye. He said he never smacked her. He did say something to the effect, I'll paraphrase, but it was something like, yeah, there was a vase, and the vase somehow hit her in the eye. There was a vase that somehow hit her in the eye. This is just disgusting. This is disgusting. Sorry, but it's disgusting. Not only that happens, but then this person was the one who would screen the most sensitive, highly classified material in the country before the president saw it. And he didn't have a proper security clearance to do it. The entire White House knew about this. His chief of staff is under extreme pressure because the FBI told them about this abusive behavior and denied him a security clearance because of it. And they hired him anyway. Again, Trump and John Kelly, these misogynists running our country. This is what I was talking about when I talked about Donald Trump's relationship with women blowing up. More than I thought. I was right about the relationship, for sure. Their relationship is over. His relationship with Melania, in my opinion, is finished. It's done. It's gone. I think it was gone before. It was probably on its last breath, if not completely gone before the Stormy Daniels. But now we have another sex scandal allegation. I'm recording this on February 16th. Another Playboy playmate, McDougal, I think was her name, that Trump had a 9-month affair with shortly after Barron was born. 9-month affair. And the article also outlines the methodology, the method through which Trump would cover up the affairs. And it was linked with like the National Enquirer promising these people articles in the magazine or some twisted scenario. He had a whole shtick worked out with how he would have the affairs and cover them up. Ways to deflect. Okay, so again, I said in the last video that he might be brought down by sex scandals. I mean, there's so many places to look for scandal with this guy, but this is, again, just imagine for a second that anything like this would have happened in the Barack Obama White House. Even something like the General Secretary, which was Rob Porter's title, not having a security clearance. This is a serious violation. I mean, the president has the right to, like, waive security clearance, but why? Did they waive it? For what reason? What's the reason? Because you just didn't look into it? I mean, what if this would have happened to Barack Obama in these numerous affairs and denying abusers their empathy? We just cannot imagine, and we're all just like numb to it, and we need to stop being numb to it. We need to wake up. Sorry, but it's true. And those of you who just think it's all fake news and I'm CNN brainwashed and Hillary and Pizzagate or whatever it is you're going to say, you're free to say it. I'm going to speak the truth that we all see. We need to start agreeing upon some collective facts in this world, especially in the U.S. And I said this as a big part of my eclipse forecast. And hopefully, now that these planets are outside of the Kalasarpa Yoga, mainly Venus and Mercury are going to break out of this Kalasarpa Yoga, we could start agreeing upon some facts and stop acting like just because we hear something we don't like, it's fake news. Facts are still facts. So, let me go on. That's my commentary. Besides my commentary, we'll get back to the events that happened. And again, maybe even if you're a fan of Trump, you can kind of discriminate between what I'm saying and realizing that the predictions I made and the things I said based on the astrology are absolutely correct. I said it was going to blow up his relationships and reveal the truth of his nature and his relationships with women and his true feelings about women, and that's what's happened. And I also said that once we had the solar eclipse, it could be really bad for the Russia scandal thing. Once we get over here, because this is in his 6th house, is a very strong 6th house component to this whole eclipse, that you're going to see his enemies and Mueller getting really strong, and that maybe Trump will try to move on Mueller, which might happen. But it gets harder and harder to move on Mueller now that Mueller has really shown some indictment, or he's brought down some indictments today against 13 Russians, and they're meddling in the election, which, again, everyone who has seen forensic evidence, which it's not hard to recognize where internet attacks are coming from, but everyone who has seen the forensic evidence realizes Russia meddled in our election. By the way, I'm just going to say this other thing really quick about the fake news kind of stuff. You hear people say, oh, FBI making stuff up, it's all fake news, they could say anything. The only people who would say that are people who actually don't run websites and can't see. You can easily tell where web attacks are coming from. In this case, if you've ever examined any of the general evidence in this web hack from Russia, this web hack, this ongoing effort to hack and to use bots, it's very clear where they originate from. It's not hard to find this out. IP addresses, certain things can't be faked. U.S. intelligence, forensic, officers have the highest, most sophisticated equipment in the world to be able to snuff out, repel, and actually perpetrate cyber attacks as well. It is not rocket science to figure this stuff out, especially where something comes from, the country. But anyway, so Mueller's handing down more indictments now, and also the guy Gates is said to be cooperating now with the investigation even more. So again, this sixth house quality of this eclipse now, which is in Trump's sixth house, the solar eclipse. Lunar eclipse was over his 12th house, Saturn, Venus, and the solar eclipse is in his sixth house. At least K2 was in the sixth house. Here's something you want to understand. I really consider the real impact of the eclipse to be where the node is. Even though the sun was in the next sign, this is going to affect him. You'll see some real issues personally as well. This is why I also said the sun is eclipsed in his seventh house, which is the relationship house. Absolutely, no question. But this cycle right now, like the overall cycle in his life, is Rahu going through the 12th and Ketu in the 6th. And the 6th house is enemies. This is why he has very formidable, intelligent, focused, and relentless enemies now, which is Ketu in his 6th house. And we're seeing, certainly things like indictments and people betraying you and cooperating with, federal investigators to save their skin, which is happening with Gates, also Steve Bannon, and all the other people that are talking. This is very much 6th and 7th house stuff. And it shows the karma that you get with other people from the 7th house based on what a good friend and ally you are in the 6th. So he's getting the karma now of however loyal of a friend he is, however willing he has been to be humble and to be of service to his friendships, which is the higher quality of the 6th house. And the truth of the matter is, he ain't. So ain't nobody being loyal to him at this point. There's also literally the potential battle over him getting subpoenaed. I wouldn't be surprised if soon there might not be a legal showdown around those kinds of things. He floated the idea that I'd love to talk to Mueller, and then, at some point you don't have the choice. You might get subpoenaed, and whether you want to do it or not, you're going to do it. And so these things are in the future, but right now, this is what we're talking about, and I wanted to make this video to follow up and say, not just as a matter of braggadocio, but to show you how astrology works. I was dead on about this relationship stuff. It was obvious, it was clear, and it's blowing up all around him. And I think his relationship is finished. I said it even back in, even a couple weeks ago, that I think she's just like, no way. I think Melania Trump has a lot of personal dignity and pride. And right now, she is probably beyond furious, probably not so happy being an object of pity. And she's probably extremely embarrassed. Can you imagine if Donald Trump, if this man was your husband, who you had to now defend somehow? She probably wants to get as far away from cameras as possible, because if she gets anywhere near a camera, Melania, what do you think about Trump cheating? What about the cheating? What about the strippers, Playboy playmates, lying, $130,000? You got to be kidding me. I think and I hope, for the sake of the Me Too movement and women and the country and everybody, even Donald Trump, that she leaves his butt, frankly. I said, I even made a prediction in the last video, I wouldn't be surprised if she filed for divorce, which is a pretty bold prediction for a first lady. I still wouldn't be surprised. If not now, maybe when we have the eclipses this summer. If not file for divorce, maybe very obviously leaving him. Like moving back to Trump Tower or wherever the other home is. I would say very clearly, and I would bet 10 to 1 right now, that behind the scenes, he's begging her not to leave. You can't leave me. What would it do to my presidency? Sorry, I had to do a Trump. Maybe for the good of the country or the good of something, she's not. But how much more of that do you think she'll put up with? I don't know. But I think that's what's going on. And I said it as much 3 weeks ago. That's the end of that. So anyway,